This is MommaFoxFire, your host for Even Tacos Fall Apart, the podcast where we embrace the messiness of life and still find love in every moment. Today's episode is a special one. It's a journey into the intricacies of life with Asperger syndrome and the vital world of disability advocacy. Before we dive into our enlightening conversation with the incredible Christopher Wheat, let me share a little bit about the personal side of this for me. As many of you know, I am a single parent to two amazing kiddos, each with their unique set of challenges that both they face and that I support them in. And those include anxiety, ADHD, and Tourette syndrome. As other parents know, it's a roller coaster ride to raise kids in and of itself, much less those facing unique challenges. But it's definitely one that's filled with love, laughter, and a whole lot of learning. Life has this beautiful way of throwing curveballs, but it's in those moments of chaos that we discover the true strength within ourselves and in our loved ones. And speaking of strength, hey, segue, Christopher Wheat, our guest today, is not only an advocate for those with Asperger's, but also a beacon of resilience and inspiration. In our conversation, Christopher opens up about his experiences, the highs and the lows of life with Asperger's, and his passionate endeavors in the realm of disability advocacy. He brings a unique perspective to the table, one that challenges stereotypes and champions the importance of self-awareness and acceptance. And his story is really powerful. Some of the things that he's been through with work and his personal life, they're really touching to listen to. I believe this episode will not only resonate with those on a similar journey, but also provide valuable insights into the broader landscape of neurodiversity. Whether you're a parent navigating the complexities of raising neurodivergent kids, or an employee trying to fight for your workplace rights, or someone eager to understand more about Asperger syndrome, you're in for a treat and a wonderful conversation. So grab your favorite beverage, settle into a cozy spot, and let's embark on this insightful journey together. It's a conversation that's both enlightening and engaging, filled with real talk about mental health, resilience, and the power of understanding. Without further ado, let's dive into the heart of the matter. Welcome to Even Tacos Fall Apart. You just gotta go with the flow, and that is okay. Hello, everyone. Welcome. I'm super happy to have you here for Mental Health Monday. We just got a raid. You are just in time. Drunk Rat, thank you so much for that raid. I appreciate it. Folks who are here with Drunk Rat, you are just in time for Mental Health Monday. We are going to be talking tonight with our guest, Christopher Wheat, about his story of living life with Asperger's and advocating for disabilities. So you're welcome to join in the conversation. If you have questions, we do have a question queue open, exclamation point Q. Follow that with your question in the chat, and that will get you entered into it. And I will make sure that we get everything answered. So a little bit about Chris, and then we will kind of get going here. We'll just kind of jump right in. So those of you who haven't been here before, Bite Mark is about to show you how to use the question queue, and she's a wonderful example giver there. So she'll pop that in, and we'll go ahead and get going. A little bit about Christopher. He has Asperger's syndrome, like I just mentioned, and as a teacher, he tries to educate people on what autism is all about. He and his wife, Jamie, have a daughter, a son, and a set of twin daughters. Both of the twins are on the autism spectrum as well. The author of Weirdo 2.0, Christopher has been documenting his advocacy journey and the challenges he's faced in the workplace and beyond. And if anyone wants to connect with Christopher, here's his Instagram and his Twitter. You are welcome to connect any way you would like with Christopher. And Christopher, thank you so much for joining us today. I appreciate you taking the time and joining us.
Oh, yeah, I'm thrilled. This is to do this kind of live and in action. I love it.
Yeah, absolutely. Well, we're going to open with a community question because, like I said, Bite Mark just showed everybody how to use that question queue. And her question is, what is your favorite poem?
I'm kind of a Shel Silverstein fan.
Yeah.
I grew up with Shel, so I would say Sarah Cynthia Sylvia Stout Would Not Take the Garbage Out.
It's been a long time since I heard that one.
Yeah, but I love
it's a good one.
I love it.
Yeah,
he was a great poet.
Yes, absolutely. That's a really good one. And there's so I've got the lyrics to it. It's a little bit long, so I will just post the lyrics to it in the chat, and if anybody is not familiar and would like to go check that out, you are welcome to. Bite Mark said, "Yes, my favorite is also Shell, so bonus points from me." Absolutely.
Yeah,
Oh, that
like
was a
Where the
long link.
Sidewalk Ends,
Yeah. Oh,
and I
that's a
forget what
great
the
one
other
too.
one's called. Well, that's the name of the book with
Mm-hmm.
all of his material in it.
Yeah.
But he had 3 books, I think.
Hmm.
All I'm trying to remember. It's
Yeah.
been a while.
Yeah. So apologies for the really super long link. I don't know why I posted such a long link, but there it is. If anybody wants to go and read it, that is okay. So have y'all started school yet? Or are you going to start school soon?
Actually, well, okay, so Monday today, we had kids come in and they met with their teachers, and that's today and tomorrow.
Mm-hmm.
And then officially on Wednesday, we get the freshmen, and on Thursday, we get
Ah,
everybody.
okay. All right.
Yeah.
So
And so,
we started last week. We started on Thursday. Our kids went back on Thursday. And then
uh,
some districts in the area started back today, I think, which feels super early to me.
well, actually, a lot of the schools around here are actually starting later. Like they're
Mm-hmm.
starting like next week. So,
Yeah.
um, we start a little earlier.
I just don't know why they start back so early in Texas. They have to air condition that building. It's got to cost them a lot of money to start this early, honestly.
Yeah, I'm sure.
Yeah. So, what are some things you are looking forward to about the coming school year as a teacher?
Well, I had taught 6 years in one of the buildings, and this is the first year I've actually moved from one to another. In fact, I'm moving into the biggest building we have. It's the oldest and the biggest. It's called Wyandotte High School, and probably one of the most notable people from that school. I mean, there's lots of people, but Ed Asner. If everybody remembers Ed Asner, he did the voice from Up, and he's a graduate of Wyandotte High School. And
Nice.
so, anyway, so there's going to be about 2,000 kids. There, I will be working with the behavior students this year, because the last 6 years I worked as an SOC. Basically, that's where I I'm the case manager and I follow around. I just, but this time I'm going to be the behavior person. So
Mm-hmm.
it's going to be a little different. But that's okay because honestly, I've already got my degree for administration. I just need to pass my test.
Hey, so
And
have
once I
you
pass that, then I'll become an administrator.
perfect? Do you have your test like the date and everything set already?
Well, I was going to, but then Jamie my wife
Oh
had
yeah.
surgery. So, and she and I talked about that. She said, well, Chris, why don't you wait until she's back and all that and less distraction. So it will be set. It'll be this month. I just probably
Yeah.
like a Saturday or Sunday.
Well, that makes sense. And we were talking about before that Jamie just had surgery and everything, and you said she's doing well, she's in recovery and everything. So I really hope that her recovery continues to go well and all that good stuff. She comes home and gets all the rest and rehabilitation that she needs.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, first she's going to be somewhere where the dogs are not. So that way she doesn't um,
That's fair.
get welcomed a lot.
Yeah.
So,
Yep. That's totally fair. So you balance a teaching career, you obviously have a family and family life, and you also write, and we were talking about, doing podcasts and everything. I'm sure that's got to be challenging. So how do you manage to keep pursuing your passions in the face of being so busy?
well, honestly, I find windows during school while I'm teaching. I can write some things down. Usually most of it's done over the summertime.
Mm.
Uh, where that gives me more time to kind of get things together. Usually what I'll do though is once I get it written, then I'll send it off to get it edited and then back again. And so I mean, you'd be surprised, really, honestly, how much I don't have a lot to juggle because all my youngest are 28.
Mm-hmm.
So the twins turned 28 years old. So obviously, I'm pretty much an empty nester.
Yeah.
So really, I do have more time than other people that might still have children that are still at home. So
I've got
at least
two.
I have more time.
I've got two, one in fourth grade and one in 11th grade, and it's crazy.
I bet it is.
Oh, it is. Bite says, I know post giant Texas freeze, a lot of schools padded their hours overall so they can be closed more days without having to make it up. That's a good point because we were out of school in that 2021 winter storm for about like a week and a half. It was a lot of time.
That was bad.
Yeah, it was not. It was personally for me, it was really terrible. But I know for a lot of people, it was bad as well. But we actually lost several pets that day, so that was really sad. Not that day. It was the whole week of not having power and everything. So,
right.
Yeah, it wasn't good. But I know that there was loss of life, like loss of human life is more important to recognize than loss of pet life. But personally, it was pet life for me. So,
I understand.
But that makes sense. I mean, they're adding more days in the school year without having to make it up. That tracks. Although I think they didn't have to make those days up because it was actually declared an emergency.
Yes, they can do that. The state, the federal government, many times, if you've had a disaster, well, I mean, I hate to pull up Hawaii, but it's the newest thing out there. If they had started school already, they would have already had a, they would have said, well, you don't have to make those days up,
right,
because of because of the horrible tragedy there. So that is a thing that really does happen.
I'm pretty sure they did that in Texas too, because I don't remember having to send the kids any extra that year.
Yeah, and sometimes actually, and again, administrator here talking, they will extend the time of day a little bit, like start a little sooner and a little later, and you'd be amazed at how much that whittles away at the extra time.
Yeah.
So that way you're not losing actually any extra time. It's just a little of an inconvenience, but it still does take care of the time though. The time issue.
Yeah, that's fair. Do you have a serial killer or a true crime story that fascinates you?
Well, I'll tell you honestly, my wife is the big, gigantic Nightline 2020 person. I just sit in the bed and I'll just kind of take it in sometimes. But the one that I actually found interesting to me was the one that happened in Moscow, Idaho. We know some people up in Moscow, Idaho, and so that up there is probably caught my interest the most, because it's a little more personal to my wife and I. We don't know any of the people that sadly perished, but the area we know about.
So I'm not familiar with that one. What happened there?
Oh, well, this was the one where the kids were sleeping in a house, college kids, and somebody came in the middle of the night and stabbed and killed 4 people.
Oh my gosh.
Yes. In fact, I think there's actually a podcast about this. And so anyway, it was a horrible, horrible thing to happen. They've got the person, and the trial will probably be here later on, but it really shook up the whole, town.
I'm sure.
Very much a college town. This young man that they believe had done it actually is a student in Washington school. I don't know if it was Washington State, maybe. But anyway, there's just a lot of evidence and everything that just point right to the guy. So
yeah.
But yeah, it was really, I'm sure some of your listeners out there probably know what I'm talking about.
Oh, probably.
Yeah.
Yeah. There's lots of different stories, different areas. It's always kind of interesting to think about the things that go on around us that sometimes we don't even know about, and then sometimes people are really passionate about knowing about them. So, by Mark says the number of guests you've had that say my wife is the one into true crime entertains me. That is the truth. That is the truth. I mean, I don't know why so many women are into true crime, but it's a trend. That's
Maybe
for sure.
they're taking notes.
Hey.
Just in case, because a lot of these deal with the husbands or do something, or the boyfriends do something, they didn't know that the husband was like this, and so
Yep. Well, and as women, we're raised to be on kind of the safer side, and the way that at least I was raised was from you need to know what's going on. You need to be the one with your keys between your knuckles. You need to be the one keeping an eye out for these other people, and not these other people shouldn't do that kind of thing. So maybe it's kind of a little bit of that too.
Well, that's actually the book that I'm working on now deals a little bit with relationships and how to deal with being married to, or at least dating somebody on the spectrum or some other disability. It's going to be rather intricate, because I can take it from my side. From the women, my wife's like, well, what are you going to do about the women? I'm like, well, yeah, we'll do that. We'll address it, but I'm gonna have to do researching on how the women that have this condition deal with it. But I always start out by saying that, and I open up with, you have to know who you are first. If you don't know what you really want, or if you don't know what you really think is right, then don't try to just go out and date anybody. Because if you just start dating anybody, then you're not really going to be paying attention to what you need, what you want. And that may sound a little selfish, but in any relationship, it's you're working together on this thing. And if it's not something that you can work together on, then it's not something you need to be doing. And you need to break it off and start over. My twin daughter, sadly, is experiencing this very thing right now. So her social skill is so funny. She's a social worker, a very bright bright kid, but for her social life, it's really been a trick. And so we're really happy that she came and saw us. In fact, she flew out today back to Washington. But we had a nice long discussion about what she should be doing with herself and her situation.
Yeah. Are you going to have your wife help you with any parts of the book to say, like, here's a tip for my wife, like just a little aside kind of story or anything?
I started doing that, but then my wife went, oh, she really didn't. I mean, I don't know if she's just waiting for me to complete the whole thing, and then she comes back and starts griping at it, or I'm not sure. I don't really know what she wants to do. She's an artist. It's kind of funny. When we first got together, I was the artist, she was the writer. But now, after 30, some odd years later, I'm now the writer and she's the artist. And I'm actually, like I said, I'm sitting here in my wife's art studio, where she's done things from candles to that special hard plastic resin.
Resin, yeah.
Resin. So she does stuff with resin, and she makes some really beautiful things. And so, I mean, you're right. I do ask her on some things, but most of the time, though, I'm just kind of on my own. She'll probably do, honestly, what she'll probably do is she'll probably look at it when it's completed, and then she'll probably go back, and then I'll probably have to write in some things.
Yeah.
So,
Well,
But I
good.
always try to make each of these books interesting. So
Absolutely.
like for example, in this little baby,
Mm-hmm.
it's more engaged around the bubble of a circus. So it's kind of a circus feel to it. This one that I'm doing now is more going to be about
Hmm.
pioneers. Um, I mean, the history of versus and then us today as
Yeah.
pioneers, because, we still go together, we still go out just like they used to do back in the 1800s. Uh, so I kind of tied them together to make it have a little more of an interest. Because if we just start blabbing out stuff, people are going to get bored.
Yeah. Absolutely.
So I'm not. I mean, I don't like writing or reading things that are just boring. I like
Mm-hmm.
to have something with interest in
Give
it.
it a theme.
Exactly, the theme
Yeah.
and everything else. Right, exactly, and that's why I did. That's what I did with this, and
That's
so
really cool. I like that. Real quick, can you switch over to your captioner and just re-hit start captioning on that one? We'll make sure that it's going. Or maybe it's just not working on my end also. Let's see.
start captioning.
And I'll hit refresh and we'll see if we can get that. Ah, there it goes. Okay, good. Okay, so for those who may not know your full story, you are diagnosed with Asperger syndrome, a form of autism spectrum disorder. Can you explain what characteristics of Asperger's that you encounter in your daily life?
Now, are you asking about me personally?
Yeah.
What my symptoms are?
Yeah.
Okay, because as I don't know how many of your listeners know, but this is a condition that is truly defined. Like even though I've got twin daughters, they are not the same.
Mm-hmm.
Their conditions are completely different, even from me. So for myself, I'm OCD, and I do deal with depression. And before I started writing this book, my depression was hardcore bad.
Mm.
It was very difficult, and so I think in many ways the book, in a way, kind of was a kind of a helping thing. It was something
Yeah.
that helped me through these hard issues that I was dealing with, and so that's the biggest thing. I do get anxious. Sometimes I do take medication to keep myself in control.
Mm-hmm.
I have been noticing that loud noises have been bothering me a little more than they used to.
Mm.
So I mean, but other than that, I'd say my biggest problem that I can't always know is, am I saying the right things? Because there are times when I'll say things or do things, and my wife's like, Christopher, hey, you don't need to say that, or you don't need to do this. So she reminds me, she's kind of my watchdog in a way where I have to be careful about the things
Mm-hmm.
I say, because it can get me in a lot of trouble, which it actually has gotten me in a lot of trouble. Uh, Besides the fact I told off our superintendent, but or ex superintendent. But anyway, but yeah, I just sometimes that filtering part just doesn't work as well for
Mm-hmm.
me.
Yeah.
And as much as I try to think about the things I say, it's still hard to do.
Right. So Bite Mark has a great comment in the chat. She said it's like saying if you've met one person on the autism spectrum, you've met one person on the autism spectrum. And that's
That's
great.
exactly it.
Yeah, because there's a lot of, a lot of different things. It's like, well, if you've met one person with X, you've met all people with X. And it's like, that's not the case. Most of the time, that's not true. But also, it's definitely not the case for the autism spectrum. I mean, it's completely different from person to person. Absolutely.
Yes, it really is. And, one of the things I'm maybe even starting to look at a little more is how many people are being properly diagnosed either with it or say they have it, but they really don't have it.
Mm-hmm.
They actually have something else. And so that's where it gets kind of, I think we're running into this problem again because there was a time when they used to like identify everybody with ADHD.
Mm-hmm.
Everybody has ADHD.
Yeah.
Well, they're crazy, so you have ADHD. Well, that's not necessarily true, but they still like to label it that. And then they give you a whole bunch of drugs to come to find out that it's not really that at all. It's just that's just how they are.
Mm-hmm.
They get older, they mature. That most of that usually goes away. So it's that's the problem. And
Mm-hmm.
we need to be very, very careful because you start diagnosing these kind of things, and if you get medication, you better hope that it's really the case. And of course, and the you listeners probably all know the ones that are the most difficult to actually pin down are the women.
Mm-hmm.
Women do a really good job of hiding this. But as a teacher though, I can kind of sniff it out. I actually had a student of mine who I did an interview with, and I knew she had it, but the parents were not going to test her
Mm-hmm.
at all, and so I interviewed her, and I've got some really good material there. So that is something that I would like to eventually address also, because I think a lot of the women, I mean, there's lots of reasons why
Mm-hmm.
they want to hide it, and I get it. I understand. It's difficult, but I think they need to really, hopefully, embrace it, the whole thing. But like I said, it can really be a mess.
Yeah, we were actually just talking about that in Discord as well because we were talking about the underdiagnosis of women and the prevalence of, first of all, just scientific research on men versus on women. There's so much more research done on men, and then it's like, well, of course it applies to all people, and we're kind of finding out that no, that's not really the case. So, but you brought up ADD, and that's one of the things that my youngest has Tourette syndrome, and he also has ADHD, but we aren't documenting that he has ADHD because all the accommodations that he needs can be covered under Tourette syndrome, because there is a stigma in schools where if someone has ADHD, all of a sudden they're labeled and they want you to medicate. And it's like, we aren't going to medicate. I've just put everything under this one umbrella. And we work with his neurologist and everything to make sure that everything gets covered. But
let me tag on to that too.
Yeah.
Everyone out there, if your child does get diagnosed with ADHD or ADD, that does not mean you're necessarily going to have what we call an IEP.
Mm-hmm.
You might have something called a 504, and that's about as far as it'll go, is a 504.
Yeah.
And so so that's why you have to, think about that, because if it's that, then that's what you'll have. It's kind of a surface. I think you know what I'm talking about with a 504.
Yeah,
though.
that's what we have in place for him, actually.
Okay, good. All right. Well, then that's the correct thing to do.
Yeah.
Because you can. And let me also remind too that the DSM-5, that book, the psychology book, it's actually a fascinating. If you're really into this, you really ought to look at it. You can get it free online through a PDF.
Mm-hmm.
And would you believe that in that book, Asperger is mentioned one time?
Really?
Just one time. Autism now is mentioned several times, but the word Asperger itself is only mentioned one time.
Interesting.
Yeah, I was a little surprised by that. But.
Yeah. Do they just kind of put it as an umbrella under autism?
Yeah,
or?
I think they're trying to move away from the term Asperger, I think.
Okay.
Even though the origins of it is from the doctor Hans Asperger from Germany, which he was, even though he was from Germany, he's from Austria. he was not a true German sympathizer. He
Mm-hmm.
was more like, oh shoot, the one that Liam Neeson played, Schindler's List, Oscar Schindler. He was kind of a more like that.
Yeah.
He didn't really agree with the way that the Nazis handled the children
Mm-hmm.
at all. He did
Yeah.
not like the way that he did these kind of things. So yeah, but he had to keep himself. I mean, it was tricky for him because you have to. I mean, when you got them looking over his shoulder all the time, it's like you want to keep the kids safe, but you don't want them to drag you off and them off
Right.
too. So I can understand that.
Right. Bite Mark has a question in the chat. She says, for those of us who are not in the know, what are a 504 and an IEP? And I'll let you explain the differences between those two.
Oh, well, okay. Well, IEP stands for Individual Education Plan. What it is it's what we do is we sit down and we look at what the child's having difficulty with.
Mm-hmm.
We identify what it is, and then we identify what are the things that we can do to help accommodate, or in this case, modify their school work and their school day. So it doesn't necessarily mean the work itself, but it can be just the environment in itself. So it has a lot of legal power. An IEP is a very hard legal document that has, again, clear-cut accommodations that are put in, modifications that are put in, and that stays with them, and it gets annual reevaluation every year. So you'll meet together every year to reevaluate the IEP to see if how things are going, or do things need to be changed and all that. And so when they leave high school and they get into college, please take the copy with you, because colleges will honor the accommodations. They can't do a lot with the modifications, but they can deal with the accommodations. So I do encourage that with an IEP. A 504 is like a lighter version of this.
Yeah.
It's not it doesn't have a strong it still helps the child. I mean, with some minor accommodations or things like that, but it's not even really run by the special ed department. It's really actually run through the counseling department, and the counselors are the ones that have that information and keep that together. So it's not really it's only if the child's having some small issues, not really big issues. And so it's not, I'm not sure if you, do you have yearly checks on the 504s?
We do. Yeah.
Okay.
Well, so we do, now in my experience, so my oldest stepson had an IEP, for a host of reasons. And my experience, the differences in the two, it's like a 504 is very much an IEP light. But we do have an annual review with the 504. There are no modifications to the plan, like to the lesson plans or anything for him. It's just, in his case, he has Tourette syndrome. If he's having a bad tick day and he needs more time on a test because his tick is in his hand and he can't write things very quickly, that's something that they can accommodate him with a little bit more time. But he doesn't get a separate testing environment. He doesn't get, he's on the same path for all of his classes with his peers and everything. And it's not, there doesn't seem to be as many meetings. I remember with the IEP with my oldest stepson, it was a lot of meetings. It was like every 3 months we were going up there and meeting to adjust it.
Well, now, and what you're referring to, and just to kind of tell the audience, many times they'll amend an IEP. So if something happens and they have to change something, we have to call a meeting to amend the IEP.
Yep.
And so that's what she's referring to, because sometimes a kid something will happen, they'll get it, but then they'll say, well, no, when we wrote this and we did this, we noticed that this wasn't in place. We need to change it.
Right.
So that's generally what's going to happen, is you're going to get those amended. So those are fun.
Yeah. It was, the IEP was, in my experience, just the worst. Not because everyone was not wanting to support the kid or anything, because all the teachers, all the administrators, everyone in all of the departments that had to attend, but it was just like, here we are again, same people. It felt like it was a drain a little bit on the people at the school.
And two, let me say this as well. You really have to be the main advocate for this.
Yep.
Because with our daughter, Sarah, not the one that was a little lower at the time, I had to go in and lay down the law on with the administrator, the SPED teacher, and the gen ed teacher, because they were not doing the things they needed to do. And so I'm like going, okay, no. You are doing this. Because one of the things they always have to ask you is for your parental rights, and they will give you a copy of your parental rights. And I strongly recommend that you read through that.
Yep. Because
you have a lot of power when you know what your rights are, and you can call for a meeting anytime you want if something isn't going the way it's supposed to be going. So because schools like to try to kind of take that over a little bit and think, oh, well, the parent doesn't know anything. If you are really on your P's and Q's, you can do a lot.
Yeah.
With that. So please don't just kind of let it go. It's not going to be, if your child's having a really hard time in the school and there's an IEP, find out what's going on, because you have every right, because see, we're providing a service for your child. So, and if the service isn't being provided properly, then you have every right to come back and demand, hey, we need to meet again.
Right.
So, yep.
Can you share more about your journey and experiences growing up? So you were diagnosed as an adult, right, with Asperger syndrome. So particularly the challenges that you faced and how you navigated them before you knew that there was anything, a diagnosis-wise, to be had.
Well, here we go. The old I've actually had this question several times, because I'm 53 and I've grown up in the 70s and the 80s, and we just didn't know what in the world was going on. We didn't have any clue. And my mother was an educator also, and she had no idea. And so she knew there was a big difference between me and my brother, my younger brother. And so she tried to kind of keep me closer to me than him, because she knew there was something up, but she wasn't sure exactly what it was. And I didn't even know. And I knew myself that there was something odd going on, because I'd watch other kids, how they react, how they played, all this kind of thing. But for me, I kind of got left out a little bit. In elementary school, I was in kindergarten and first grade, and that was it for elementary school. I went to Montessori after that. And I stayed in Montessori until my fifth grade year, and then I went back to public school from there on until I graduated. But I had no idea. No clue as to how, what, why, nothing. I didn't. And so it kind of got a little frustrating. Of course, there was a lot of bullying, because they didn't, the kid, they knew there was something odd or different about me, but they didn't know either. But let's make fun of him anyway. So I had my share of those kind of things, and they were not pleasant. And it just makes you makes you kind of mad. I mean, it makes you irritated, and mad. But I mean, for me nowadays, though, it's like, you know, I don't really give it much credence anymore.
Yeah.
But back then, though, when you didn't know, you didn't know, and so I just kind of went with it. My mom, I mean, the one thing that my mom really got me to do really well was eye contact. He would literally grab my head like this and say, "Okay, Chris, look at me. Look at me. Don't turn your head. Don't turn your head." You know, and so, so there was several things that I would, you know, do. I mean, like there were things that my mom had done. I'd be upset. I would just say it. I mean, I didn't care. Lashed out. So, I mean, like I said, she went through a lot, and she didn't know what was going on, and I really, but it took me a long time to kind of reminisce about my time growing up and going over and going, okay, okay, this explains this. Now that I can understand why this happened, I can understand why that happened. And of course, the one thing that really, like for college, I stayed at a community college. My dad worked for a community college, and so my mom thought, okay, well, at least I'll keep him close. Well, she didn't quite equate one small problem. Jaimee. And so literally in the spring of 1989, January, literally, we had two classes together. When we first met each other, I thought she was a much older lady because she worn kind of like clothes that were kind of a little more baggy and kind of older looking, and she thought I was gay. Now honestly, I had hair, yes, I did. I'm not going to show you what it used to look like, but it was horrible. Basically, I had the swath of hair and I had the mullet kind of thing going. Yeah, I know, it wasn't too good.
Hey, party in the front, business in the back. Or no, business in the front, party in the back. That's what it is.
Okay, that's horrible. But anyway, well, my wife took care of that problem. But so that year of '89, I proposed to her in April, and went in. I went to my mom and I told her, and my mother said, "Proposed what?" Like, oh no, not good. And so we got married that November 25th, same year, '89. We both were 20. We got I'm a November birthday. I was the 6th, and we got married on the 25th. And so my mom, she came to our wedding wearing black.
Oh my gosh.
I'm not kidding. She wore black.
Wow.
So yeah, like I said, mom wanted to try to keep me close, but she did not anticipate me meeting somebody and kind of
moving really fast,
taking her son away. And so, but I think if you were to talk to her now, she just turned 80 on July 4th.
Nice.
Yeah. If you talk to her today, though, I think she would definitely say that my choice, picking her, was probably the best thing I could have ever done.
Aww.
Because she has seen what she's done to help me. She knows that she loves her son. You know, I mean, she loves me a lot, and that she wants to help do anything with my mother. And many times when my mom calls, she'd almost rather talk to my wife than me, which it's fine. I mean, it doesn't really bother me much, but that's kind of how it is, though. I mean, she felt really good about the relationship that she had with her. You know, we kind of grew up together and grew together with her and my dad, and so, but like I said, though, my mother really tried her very hardest she didn't want to see me hurt. She didn't want to see
Right.
me. If she knew about the bullying, she would definitely would have been really upset.
Mm-hmm.
But that's okay. I think everything turned out really well in the end. But yeah, she was. It was a trick. It was
Yeah.
just really tough. It was a tough time.
I know
But I
that.
did love the music.
Yeah, good. I mean, listen, if you
Come
don't.
on, 80s music. Come on.
Yeah, absolutely. Can't go wrong. Can't go wrong.
Yeah.
I know that you raised 4 kids, and now how many grandkids do you have?
I have 2 grandkids.
2 grandkids. Wonderful. What?
They will be.
Oh, go ahead.
Oh no, I was just saying one's 10 and one's 8.
Oh, wow. Yeah, those are. My 9-year-old is about to be 10. He'll be 10 in October. So right now he's right in between those two.
Yeah.
What advice would you offer to parents and caregivers who have kids with disabilities based on your experiences as a kid? And your experience raising kids, too.
Okay, so if you do, please, one thing for sure. Don't be like the young lady that I interviewed and deny what you know. Because she felt like there was something up, and we talked, and I told her, well, you definitely have Asperger. You are autistic. She's very smart. She's brilliant. I mean, she even made the National Honor Society. But it was not tough for me to identify it quick. I mean, I was on it fast. I knew exactly what she had. But the parents wouldn't get her diagnosed. You're doing them a disservice if you don't get them into a psychiatrist and let them, do the job they need to do. If you don't agree with what they have to say, go to somebody else. Get a second opinion. That's fine. There's nothing wrong with that.
Nope.
But make sure that, like I said, make sure that they get it right. Because like I said before, you don't want them to misdiagnose your child. Because like schizophrenia, multiple personality, bipolar, those things can look a little bit like autism, but it is not autism.
Right.
And so you need to be very careful. That's why I said that definitely have your child, if you really believe there's something up, have the child tested. But again, if you're not too happy with how it was diagnosed, go see somebody else. So that way, at least you've got more than one opinion. And from there, you can make decisions on what you want to do.
Yeah.
So that'd be my biggest thing. My next biggest thing I would strongly recommend is that if your child is having difficulty with their speech, or they're not even talking, because our twins, Kristen was always the talker. She could talk, and Sarah was that way for a little bit, but then she suddenly went mute, and we didn't know what was going on. And so their pediatrician was doing a test on a drug called Namenda. Namenda is supposed to be for Alzheimer's patients. The idea of Namenda is to help the synaptics of the brain kind of forge together again. Well, with our daughter, as she was growing, they said, well, let's try Namenda on her to see what happens with her development. And sure enough, when she had the Namenda, everything started coming together. So she became, from being a low-functioning autistic child to a high-functioning child.
That's amazing.
It was. I was floored, because they told us, well, you'll be having to take care of her for the rest of your life. And so, but not so. She's up there in Washington right now. She has a master's degree in social work.
That's awesome.
I don't know what else to tell you guys. I mean, I definitely recommend that you talk to your pediatrician first, though.
Yeah.
And usually the human brain, I think it's right around 25, I think is when it kind of stops the development. So, but I've always keep telling people, it's like, look, if they're really low, ask about it. And I think we even did it through Children's Mercy. Up here in Kansas City, we have a Children's Mercy Hospital is massive.
Mm-hmm.
Now, there are lots of other, obviously children's hospitals around the United States. But I would definitely check into it.
Mm-hmm.
If your child was born mute, can't talk much, doesn't say much, ask about it, because it's really worth looking into. It's really worth it. I mean, for my daughter, it gave her a new life.
Mm-hmm.
And we are just, like I said, so proud of her. Now, like I said, if she can just get the social part figured out, I think we'd be all good. But
Mm-hmm.
but at least she has a twin sister that she talks to all the time, and but it's tough. So, but I would definitely recommend it.
Yeah, I feel like, I think with female children or female presenting children, it can be a little harder to take them and get them a diagnosis, because as a society, we raise kids in certain ways, and that doesn't make it right. But if you can't get it in there and listen to your pediatrician, listen to the doctors around you. I mentioned that we don't have an official on the books diagnosis for ADHD for my 9-year-old. That is on the advice of his neurologist. So that is listening to the doctor. And I want to make it clear that I absolutely feel like if you go to a professional and you are taking your child and you're trying to figure out what they need to help them thrive, and your doctor recommends a diagnosis, don't just fly in the face of it. Everything that I'm doing for my kids is on the advice of their doctors. So yeah, I mean, going in and listening to those providers and getting a second opinion if you need to. We talk about that all the time. If you need a second opinion, go get one. If you need a different provider, go get one. So yeah, absolutely.
Well, even for myself, when I got diagnosed for myself, one of the things that I ran to that was more difficult was, what medication do I take that will work? And so I went through 3 or 4 different kinds of medications till we found the right one that would actually work for me. So it's a process, and it's not always going to be that perfect magic pill every time. It might take a little bit of time to figure out, okay, what's their personality like on this drug? Or what's their personality like on this drug? Because you will see significant differences with different drugs. And so that's what I had to go through. Almost felt like a guinea pig. But it was one of those things where I knew that I needed something to help myself out. And so we finally were able to settle on something that worked for me.
Yeah.
But that doesn't mean it's necessarily going to work for, like I said, anybody else.
Absolutely.
So that's the kind of another thing you want to keep in the back of your head too, about medications and things. Really watch your child.
Right.
Get a baseline. What's the child like without any medication? And then when the medication is given, what are they like then? And then you kind of have to decide, okay, well, did this work? Is it going to work? Not work?
Yeah.
So it's tough.
Yeah.
I know it's tough, guys. It's not easy.
That's for sure. It's not easy. And you have to be your own advocate or the advocate on behalf of your child. I find it's easier to be the advocate on behalf of my child than it is to be my own advocate. But yeah, that's
the mama bear, right?
Yeah. I don't like to ask for things for myself, but I will sure as shit ask for things for anyone else.
Yeah, that's true. There you go. And see, that's the funny part, because I won't ask, but my wife will then say, well, Chris, why don't you say something? I don't know. Hold on. My husband needs, I'm going.
Yep, exactly.
I feel a little embarrassed, because my wife can be quite a hawk, and I'm more of a kind of a dove kind of person. and so whenever she goes toe to toe on somebody or something, I'm kind of going, okay, I'm going to just step over here on the side. Hey, you go ahead, sweetie. I'm going to just be over here. But man, boy, I tell you, you get my wife on the wrong side and it can turn ugly. But But like I said, though, when Sarah had her IEP in high school, I stepped in because I got
Mm-hmm.
really
Yeah.
irritated, and being a teacher for a while, I told them, look, I know, and you guys aren't doing it right, and so
Mm-hmm.
I pretty much shut them down. Teachers and administrators can be not very nice sometimes.
Yeah. Yeah,
They just don't have good people skills.
we've had some very mixed experiences with teachers lately for my oldest, but we're
Makes
working
you
through
wonder
them.
why are you in the business?
Exactly.
If you're not going to be involved or try to help the kids, why are you there?
Why are you here? You're not getting paid as much as you need to get paid, so why are you here in this profession if it's not for the
Oh,
kids?
no. Yeah, the pay is definitely not high at all. So
Yeah.
anybody that's a nurse, anybody that's a teacher, we're all kind of one big happy family when it comes to the incomes.
Yeah. Can you talk about your decision to become a special education teacher and kind of your experiences in the classroom and how your journey influenced your teaching approach?
Well, I'll tell you what, that kind of fell in because after when all this happened, all this, I got disenchanted with the whole education system. And so I basically went into the government and I worked with immigration for a little bit. And so when my wife went in to do an interview, I went with her, and it was a KCK. And so I was interviewing for a social studies position because that was what I was licensed for, was social studies and drama. And so she went for the special ed. So she immediately got a job. I interviewed, but that was about it. So we left. I went on my way back to my little immigration, going through files and stuff. And she started at one of the middle schools. Well, the people there had asked her. They asked her. They said, "That gentleman that you were with that day, you were interviewing. Did you know him?" And they said, "Yeah, that was my husband." He's a teacher? It's like, yes, he's a teacher. And so they asked her, they said, well, do you think maybe he might want to be in special ed? So my wife came to me and told me this. And I said, well, I'll think about it.
Mm-hmm.
Because like I said, I was disenchanted after all the nonsense from the book. And like I said, it's definitely worth the time. If you're an educator, this will really make you mad. Because all my teachers that were like English teachers read this book over the weekend.
Oh, wow.
And I mean, they just could not put it down, which surprised me too. But anyway, so I gave it a full week. I thought about it for a full week, and I thought, well, it's not the same thing as a normal general ed teacher. It's different. Because I knew what it was about roughly, but I didn't know the exact thing. And so I just said, well, okay, why not? Let's give it a shot. So I went in, interviewed. Of course, I got the job. They put me in one of the high schools, and I was there for 6 years. And this last school year was the first time they've actually had to move me. And the only reason why that happened was because the number of students in the school, there weren't enough of them. So she had to make my principal had to make some cuts. So I wasn't technically furloughed or anything. I was just being moved to another place. It wasn't anything I was doing that was wrong. I was actually doing a great job, and I've always had great reviews and everything, which is kind of surprising. But because I've never stayed in one school for 6 years straight. It's weird. It's just never happened, but it did. And so now I've been moved over to this new school, which is fine. And I'm doing a new thing, which I'm okay with too. But yeah, so it just kind of came out of nowhere, and I'm doing it, but like I said, I'm about done.
Yeah.
I'm really ready to make the transition over to administration. And I'm doing this because I am really getting tired of seeing it done incorrectly.
Mm-hmm.
I'm watching too many administrators not knowing how to actually be an administrator.
Right.
I'm watching too many bosses and not enough leaders, if
Mm-hmm.
you can catch my drift on this one.
Right.
Because they don't understand how you have to treat a teacher and how you have to treat a student and a parent. And it's they just don't get it. And so it drives me nuts. And so that's why I've been trying to hurry up and get this in, except for the testing. Missouri is such a pain in the butt. I'll be honest. It's really difficult, especially with my disability. It's really difficult.
Yeah.
So that's kind of how it happened. Like I said, I've had my other teachers read this. One of them wanted to give me a call at 2 a.m. I was like, "Thank you, Sally, for not calling me at 2 a.m."
Mm-hmm.
She was furious at how I was treated,
Right.
but the book in itself, which I know we're going to get to, but it was just something that my colleagues really enjoyed reading and were really mad at the same time.
Yeah. I do want to talk about your book. So your book is called Weird 2.0, and I love the way the cover looks, by the way. You want to show it one more time because that's really
weird. Technically it's weird.
Oh, Weirdo 2.0. Gotcha.
And the reason why it's 2.0 is because when I wrote it the first time, Weirdo, there was so much more that I found. I was like going, I want to add more. I needed to add more to it.
Yeah.
But I also wanted to make it, I wanted to kind of separate it a little bit so that way people knew that there was a lot more to it.
Right.
And really, if you happen to come across the original one, then good, but you're probably going to have a harder time finding it.
Yeah.
A Weirdo 2.0 definitely is a book that I would strongly recommend if you've got anybody that's disabled. And it doesn't have to be Asperger's or autism. It doesn't have to be that. It could be any disability. Because we're running into a problem. I mean, we see these ads and things about how people are getting jobs and these companies are all doing great things and hiring all these disabled people for jobs and stuff. Well, where you got a good side, you also have a dark side. And so there are some managers, or should I say bosses, that don't like the way the person is doing the job. Even though they're doing the job and they're doing it, the way it's supposed to be done, they don't like how you interact or how you say things or anything else. So they're like, oh, let's just go ahead and just goodbye. Just clean out your desk. Goodbye. With no real why, with no real reason. And so not only do I tell my story in this book, but I also got permission from Temple Grandin. I don't know if you know who that is. Okay. All right, everybody out there that are autism people, there's a wonderful lady by the name of Dr. Temple Grandin, who's out of Colorado University. They actually made a movie about her. Claire Danes played the role. And so anyway, so she's been kind of the forefront person to, be out there to try to help people. And so anyway, they gave me permission to borrow some of her material to put in the book, and which I did. And I only took excerpts of parts that talked about people losing their job because of a disability, and including other people in the news that had also lost their job. And sadly, one of them actually had committed suicide.
Mm.
Graham Gentles, I don't know if that's pronounced properly, but poor guy. He was unceremoniously walked out of Target through the walk of shame, and that really got to him hard.
Yeah.
And so he had decided to go to one of the hotels near like Santa Barbara and jumped off.
Mm.
Mom, I know it still bothers her today. It's been a few years now since this happened, but it's like, one of the deadly, most horrible things about this condition, and it's not just autism, by the way, it can be other things too, but suicide is in there.
Right.
It's always in there. And I don't ever stray away from it. I just straight out, it's there, guys.
Mm-hmm.
It is. Now, there's a number that you can call. I think it's like 888 or 811 or something like that. 988. Mm-hmm. There we go. Thank you. 988. Please don't forget that. 988. If you believe that there's somebody that's, not so sure about their own life or anything like that, call. Just make the call anyway. For myself, have I? Yes. I've had the thoughts, especially when you're going through a really dark, depressive time. It is tough. It's very difficult. And you've got to find anything possible to grasp and hold on to without trying to do it. For me, it was my faith in God. I'll be straight up. It had to be, it was my faith in the Lord. My wife, my children, it just, it's tough. It really is tough. But try to understand though that we can't hide from it. Right. It's there. And so I implore you, please, 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 if you know people, whatever, don't let it be a statistic. Don't let it be something that we have to read on the news later. Just let it be something that was done. You got it. You saved them. We, give them the therapy and get them back on their feet again. Mm-hmm. Because nobody should have to feel like that they're alone, nothing, and then give up.
Yep.
So.
Yeah. So I just posted the information for the Lifeline, and then also if you go to the second link that I posted, if you're not in the U.S., there are some international resources there for you too. Canada, Mexico, Europe, all over the place. There's different ways. I know Australia has their own version of that as well. So if you're struggling, or if you know someone who is considering taking their own life, please, please, please treat it as an emergency. Because it is.
Yeah, I completely agree. Yeah, because it's not something to play with or anything. Because that's the hard, dark side of mental illness.
Yeah.
Whether it be Asperger's or something else.
Yeah.
We all have it, but like I said, especially those with autism, though, it's always everybody you talk to will say, "Yeah, I have it." And the worst part is they even know how they would do it.
Yeah.
Now you're probably thinking, do I have it? Yes, I do actually.
Right.
I won't say, but I will just say that I do. Yeah. And my wife knows, and she knows all too well. And I know, it's just something that, like I said, I'm good. I take a medication that helps me deal with these kind of things.
Good.
Especially during the time that this all happened, this was a really, really dark time.
Mm-hmm.
And I was so desperate, and so much so that I even reached out to the White House.
Wow.
And yes, I actually got a response.
That's awesome.
From President Barack Obama. What happened was that basically he talked to the EEOC in St. Louis, So they sent a letter to me and they said, "Hey, look, it's come to our attention that the president would like to know what is going on with
Mm-hmm.
you." And and it was CC to the White House. And so I explained, what was going on. But I'll tell you honestly, I'm not a big political guy, but thank you, Barack,
Yeah.
for caring enough to, just for one schmuck guy in Kansas City. Because I mean, lawyers have a hard time. I mean, I mentioned that in there. Lawyers don't like taking these kind of cases
Mm-hmm.
if you've been discriminated. Uh, I mean, because the one line, I'm sure you probably heard this a lot. Well, you don't look like you're autistic.
Right. Right.
Well, what's that supposed to mean? I mean, what is that? What's that supposed to be like? I mean, I hear that and it's like, well, what else am I supposed to do? Am I supposed to have a big A on my head? Forehead? Oh, you're autistic because you got the A on your head.
There's not a scarlet letter that you have to sew onto your shirt.
Exactly. No, they brand in your head.
Right.
So it's like, I mean, it's just ridiculous. And I'm like going, what else is it supposed to look like?
Mm-hmm.
I mean, really?
Yeah. And I want to set the expectations for your book. So your book sheds light on workplace bullying and of individuals with disabilities, essentially. Can you talk about some of the experiences that you faced that kind of brought you to the moment of, shit, I need to write this book. I need to write this down. Other people need to know this story.
Sometimes you get that little voice inside of you that tells you better start doing something.
Mm-hmm.
When I started noticing that administrators like to love to play games, and so I started keeping track of every email. I kept in fact, I would literally send my emails to my private email, so I would have all that. I would have everything written down basically, and I would journal it. I would write it down, and as I went along, and one important thing too, everyone. I know the big question is, if I get a job, do I tell them I have a disability?
Mm-hmm.
This is the answer. The answer is this: if you're feeling uncomfortable about it, don't say anything. But if you do get the job, you darn well better go to the HR people and tell them, this is what I have, and have your accommodations or whatever you think you might need to do your job in your file right then and there.
Mm-hmm.
Because that will be pretty much the only thing that will save your can. And in this case, all my ministers and everything literally did everything wrong. Everything. Anything and everything that was on my accommodation list, which by the way is in the book also. Mm-hmm. So you'll see the things that I had on there. They broke every one of them.
Wow.
Multiple times. And so what that does then is it makes a case for me to to say, hey, you know what? Y'all just really messed up big time. And the problem though is like these cases though is so it just really makes me really upset.
Yeah.
And one thing you'll read in there too is that after we made an agreement and we parted ways, there were a few things that they could do and could not do. They can say that yes, he worked here between these dates. Yes, he's not going to be coming back. Mm-hmm. But that was it.
Yeah.
You do not one negative thing is supposed to be stated, and that was in the agreement. And again, there's a copy of I typed in the agreement right in here where they're supposed to not have any negative comments whatsoever. So I tried finding a new teaching position after I got done with KCMO. And but I tried all these different states, lots of states. And most of them were like, no, it's okay. I was willing to move anywhere. And I only had a few interviews, but no jobs. I think it was like 13 different states. And we're not just talking like one school per state. We're talking several schools.
Mm-hmm.
And I did make a list of those too. I'm sorry.
Hey, listen, that's fine. Call shit out. Like, you got to.
But I wanted to illustrate how much I tried, and I couldn't figure out what was wrong, what was going on, until I got that government job. So if you ever get a government job, whether it's the contracting or whether it's the actual thing, everybody has to be interviewed by this department called the Office of Personnel Management. And what they do is basically they go through all the files from FBI, CIA, TSA. They go to your neighbors' houses. They talk to everybody. And so when they finally come in and they have that interview with you, you darn well better have not lie about a single thing, because they already know everything. They know everything. And so they asked me about what happened with KCMO. I explained. And they said, oh, well, that might explain some stuff. So this gal pulls this paper out of a manila envelope. And she said, this is what the district told us. Said that, you work between this such year, that you were not eligible for rehire. And then there was one more thing. They said that I was unemployable. Basically, I was not. I forgot the exact wording again. I have to look it up again. But basically, they said that don't hire him.
Oh my gosh!
I kid you not. I wish I was messing with you. But not only did it happen once, but I actually got interviewed twice. Once from the contract side and once from the government side, and it was two different investigators. And the same thing was mentioned. And so I was like, oh my gosh.
Wow.
That's why. Those assholes, they went to them and asked, and they said, well, he's unemployable. I wouldn't suggest you hire him.
Jesus.
They were telling them, that was what they were telling everybody. And I was like going, because you don't know.
Yeah.
You don't know, because they're not going to tell you. And so, of course, I was furious.
Rightfully so.
I tried to get any lawyers to take this.
Yeah.
And they all said, no, sorry, we don't think it's really that good. So I said, you know what? F it. I'm writing it down.
Yeah.
And I did. And that's why I have this in my hand, because I was not going to just let this go. I was furious.
Yeah.
And I was going to I'm going to let every single person know exactly what happened, why it happened. And did you know that actually one person from all those idiots is still working at that school today?
Wow.
That district. And he's a head leader. He's like the leader of the leaders. He's a doctor, and I'm going to put that in air quotes because he actually cheated on his doctorate.
Oh my gosh.
So he had to go back and do it all over again. So he finally got it. But I do need to say this. I do need to say this in all fairness. The book does not mention names directly. No names are actually mentioned. I use circus names like Dr. Clown, like Mr. Popcorn, like the Dr. Ringmaster. And it does not take place in my actual hometown.
Yeah.
It takes place in Michigan, Puzzle City, Michigan. So none of it is actually here where I'm at.
Right.
I just made some fictitious place, but every last little thing that was ever said, done, Anything else is all true.
Yeah.
I have all the paperwork. I have all the emails still. I have it all here today.
Mm-hmm.
And this was back in 2014.
Wow.
And so I kept it all. And so just to prove the fact that and I can actually send you the copy of the actual letter that was written from the EEOC to me.
Listen, I am nosy enough to say I would love to see that.
Okay, I will. Well, I'll make sure I get it sent to you. But I do actually have the real copy. Because what you'll see in the book
mm-hmm.
is it is the letter, but it's not.
Yeah.
I mean, not the real name.
Sure.
I use a different name. I use a different. Obviously, it takes place in Michigan,
mm-hmm.
but I did actually find the actual EOC in Michigan, so I used the actual place.
Yeah.
So I did that, but I mean, I reached out to Autism Speaks. I reached out to the Autism Society. I reached out to any of these organizations.
Mm-hmm.
They were no.
Oh, wow.
Everyone, I'm going to tell you straight out. Autism Speaks. No. Because they believe and you can look it up because it's on their website. They believe that autism began with some kind of vaccination.
Oh, Lord.
Yeah. Just like, Jim Carrey used to be married to this gal, but then they split, went their own separate ways. But I think that it's called, the acronym is TACA, TACA. And I'm trying to think of her freaking name. She's an actress. But they had a child and who's autistic, but she believed that this was all from, the shot of vaccination shot.
Yeah.
No. But Autism Speaks still believes that this is how their grandson, I think it was, this is how he got it. And so we're dumping lots of money into an organization that doesn't even recognize the truth behind it.
Yeah.
I mean, I'm sorry, guys, but it's genetic.
Yeah.
It is something you inherit. You either have it, you inherit. That's why my twins got it.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, for crying out loud, they're identical twins. I mean, and so yeah, they both have it.
Mm-hmm.
So obviously it wasn't a needle. My two older ones are just fine.
Mm-hmm.
My daughter and my son, they don't have it. My granddaughters, I don't believe that they have it either. They've not ever shown any signs of it.
Yeah.
So it's a fallacy. You really need to really do your homework.
Yeah, and so there was, I think it's one guy put into one study that he made up. He made the shit up in the study showing that there was a link between some vaccination and causing autism. He made it up. The stuff in his study was false. Yes. And people people still call on that one thing, and it's like it wasn't based in reality.
Oh yeah, I have a book in my library that was written from that actress. Again, I can't think of her name. But she used to be married to Jim Carrey at one time. Blonde hair.
Lauren Holly or Melissa Womer?
No, none of them.
Those are the two that come up whenever.
TAC. Okay, so the organization is called TAC.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, hold on. Okay, so who? Okay.
See, I get Texas administrative code when I Google TAC.
Well, this is
I guess because I'm in.
This is their. Oh shoot. Okay, there we go.
TACA.
TACA. Yeah, TACA. And and so they think that this frustrating. I'm trying to, but she helped put this together with some wealthy people.
Yeah.
And
That's really disappointing that that's what they're still spreading information about.
I know, and it is about. I'll honestly tell you, it is a battle.
Mm-hmm.
It's a hard battle because you've got too many people that just live and die by. I mean, they just think, oh, this is definitely it.
Yeah.
No, it just really
Jenny
irritates me.
McCarthy?
Yes.
Okay.
That's it. McCarthy.
Bite Mark got it for us.
Who did it? Who's this?
Bite Mark got it for us in the chat.
There we go. Thank you. All right. Thanks for the chat. Yes.
Yep.
Nice job. Jenny McCarthy. Yes. That lady. Yeah, that's the one. That's the one that I have a book on. Like I said, I have a book on. I'm looking at just laughing all the way through it. It's like you're stupid. Yeah, Jenny McCarthy. Don't believe a single word that comes out of that woman.
Yeah.
Any more than the people from autism speaks. It just kills me that. And what also gets me too is, and I'm gonna try. I don't know when exactly I'm gonna try, but I'm gonna try. And you're the first one for me to tell anybody any of this. I know there are conventions for autism that people can go to these things, but I'm sure that most people, and especially in the chat, please say something in regards to this if you know for sure. But it is very expensive to attend. It is not cheap. It's really expensive. You're talking like maybe between 50 to 100 or maybe even higher to attend these seminars and like hotel lobbies or whatever. And so my goal, I'm going to try, and I don't know when I'm going to be able to do this, but I'm going to try to maybe put one together that people can actually afford to go to.
Oh, that would be awesome.
Because I know a lot of people obviously in the Kansas City area, but we can always reach out to anybody from Texas or wherever else you are. If you want it, I'd have to then kind of put it together. But people, we can't all afford these kind of things,
right?
And so, but you all, I know everybody wants the information, and you all want to hear from people that are legitimately professionals about it. And MommaFire's here, Foxfire, she's definitely on the forefront from the Tourette's and all that. So if you want to ask her anything, I'm very sure she can tell you all of her experience. I myself, you've already gotten to know me pretty well. I've had lots of years of not only living with it, but having to deal with it and then everything else. And so it's just one of those things where I'm tired of seeing these kind of conventions that people can never attend because they can't afford it.
Right. Yeah, it's really difficult. I feel like COVID helped a little bit with that because some of the conferences went virtual and they had a really nice, cheaper virtual price. But now everything's going back to in person and it's right back to being expensive. So,
well, I'll tell you, in all honesty, some of these, even the virtual ones, are not cheap.
Yeah, no, some of them aren't. But some of them did have a good, decent, affordable price.
Right. I mean, and for those who are watching this live, say if you all, what do you think about a online thing versus going to, say, a hotel in your city or near your city, to gather people together, like not only just authors but doctors, people that work with autism children in schools, special schools. What are your thoughts on this? I mean, and make it. And when I say inexpensive, I'm thinking anything 20 or 25 max.
Yeah.
As max, because again, it's nobody's going to throw down 50 or 75 or 100 or even higher to attend some of these things.
Yeah.
Because really what's turning into is becoming a cash grab.
Right.
And that's not what this needs to be about. And I almost feel like Autism Speaks is kind of turning into that.
Right.
I mean, really,
I feel like virtual gives you a chance to bring it to more people, but in person, like there's nothing that beats in person for networking and getting, that feedback of face-to-face communication and everything. But and also from a cost standpoint, it's usually cheaper because then people aren't having to travel to make it to wherever. But
right, exactly. And if it can be moved around, I think that would be wonderful. I just, but maybe not have the same people,
right?
Because if I go to, let's say, if I bring myself and go to Dallas, I would like to be able to have the people in Dallas then come and talk, and have open forums and things like that, so we can, talk to them, have everybody talk to us, hear their frustrations, because we want to know. I mean, we want to know. And in all honesty, I've had several people blow up my phone about all kinds of questions and things that they wanted to know. Hey, what about this job thing? Or, hey, what about this situation? What do I do here? This, and that's fine. It doesn't bother me at all. I mean, I love to help anybody else that has this problem, that's having these issues, and they need the help.
Yep, absolutely. If you were to do something like that, what message would you be hoping that people would leave with?
Honestly, the message that they get is hoping to know that there is help out there. Because I think many times people don't know who to talk to, or who to communicate with, or who to reach out to. And so I think if we can create that kind of a community kind of thing where people get this knowledge and this information, then they go and share it with their friends and go share it with their friends and their neighbors, then I think we've done exactly what we need to do.
Yeah.
And that is spreading the word out. Hey, I got a neighbor whose kid's kind of weird and all this. And so, at least you're now sharing it, you're spreading the word. The grassroots thing, there's something to that. And I think that, we could bring in Greta from, where is she from? Sweden or something like that? Greta Thunberg.
Yeah.
Thunberg. She's autistic, but I mean, more of her emphasis is on the environment. But so I don't know how helpful she would be. But for people like myself, even Temple Grandin, but Temple, she was going to do a one of these online things for $50 each, and I'm going, Temple, why are you doing that?
Yeah.
People can't afford that.
Yeah. Going back to your move into school administration, how do you plan to bring your advocacy and the understanding that you have of disabilities into a role in administration?
Well, that would be something that I would talk more to the special ed team about. That would be a discussion I would have with them. More than just simply to every teacher. I think it's still the job of the case manager to talk to the teachers that child that we represent. they need to understand that I'm their representative. I'm like their agent, and they're the ball player. And so we're trying to get you to understand how you need to handle the child so you can do your job.
Mm-hmm.
And so really, if I'm the one that's doing that, that's a lot of work. That's really something more geared towards the actual SPED
Yeah.
team than myself. I could do a general discussion, like a professional development
Mm-hmm.
with the staff on that. But other than that, though, there's not a whole lot else I would have to worry about.
Mm-hmm.
A lot of that, again, kind of falls back on HR a little bit.
Yeah.
They need to be able to, if there's an employee of mine that I've got, a teacher that has issues or things that I need to be aware of, then they're going to let me know, and then I have to keep that to myself. But I at least now can abide by whatever they're asking me to do.
Right.
So it's kind of a fine line when you're administrating between, letting the people do the job they have to do, and having that safe and confidential
Mm-hmm.
thing that you're trying to do as well. So
Yeah.
it's tough. I mean, it's not easy to deal with, but that's the biz.
Yeah.
I mean, really.
Is there anything you do in terms of self-care or other purposeful exercises or activities to kind of just keep you going?
Oh, gee, I don't know. This school year is going to have me run all over that damn building. Wyandotte High School is not a small high school.
Mm-hmm.
It's a very old high school. It's like, early 1900s.
Mm-hmm.
Originally 1800s, but it burnt down and got moved. And so they erected this massive 3-story behemoth that easily holds 2,000 kids.
Mm-hmm.
But so I'll be all over the place. And the joke is I have to give the office my phone number because that's the only way they can find me is by calling.
Yeah.
They can't call the PA system because that's just going to interrupt all kinds of classes. But to just straight up call me on my cell, that's going to be the best way they're going to get a hold of me.
Mm-hmm.
So it's a trick, but I definitely will be on my toes and moving and being busy. Of course, the writing part is the big thing. I'm really trying to get this wrapped up so that way you all have something else now to look at, to read, hopefully take in. Because relationships, things like that, it's a trick. And it can be, you make the wrong choice and it can really end not so well.
Mm-hmm.
And which I know you know all too well.
Yes.
And in my heart, when I read that, my heart went out to you. I just wanted to give you a big hug.
Yeah.
Really, because you seem like a really nice lady. I don't know your age or anything, so I just assume everybody's
late 30s.
I just assume everybody's younger than me. So
I am younger than you. That's true.
Yes, you are. But I care about I care about you all because we all are we have one life, gang. That's it.
Yep.
Well, I got one shot and that's it. We're done. And so you want to make the best of it. You want to make the most of it.
Absolutely.
And so you want to know, why do I do what I do? Why do I do all this? Because I want to help you all try to live a good life that you have right now. And yeah, it can be a struggle. We all go through the struggles. We do.
Yeah.
But at the same time, though, live your life. And that's why it always hurts me whenever I hear about talk of, suicide, things like that. It's because, you only get one life, guys. That's it. You tap out early and then you don't realize that maybe if you had just, hung on a little longer, it would have worked itself out.
Yeah.
if I decide not to do that, and because like as you'll read in there, my house, we ran into an issue with the house, um, and the mortgage and all that. You know, if I had tapped out, I don't know what would have happened. And so, but I stuck with it, and the Lord was so good enough to get me through, and so I just feel like that, you know, I don't care, what your lifestyle is. I don't care what you do. I just care that you're here. And I
Mm-hmm.
care that, that we can share ideas, we can share thoughts, and we can share very helpful information.
Mm-hmm.
Because I know this wonderful young lady here has been doing that to help all you all. And I really hope that you guys, if you haven't shared her stuff, you know, to have others watch, I think it would be really worth their time.
I appreciate that plug.
Yeah, have we had any questions from the gallery at all? Anything?
We've had a couple of comments, but no questions necessarily. So, Growling did say, I can vouch she was born in the late 30s. Growling, do you know why I don't say my actual age? It's because I don't keep track of how old I am anymore. Like, I was born in 85, already? So I think I'm 38.
Already? Really?
Yeah.
Really?
I hit 30 and I stopped remembering how old I was. It was just like, I don't know, I'm in my 30s.
So that's what happened.
Yeah.
Okay, I see now.
Yep, I used to know exactly how old I was.
So I woke up this morning, I was thinking, wait a minute. Oh, darn, I'm 53 now. Yeah, good.
My dad turned 60 this year. It's a big year for him, so I'm excited.
Oh, I'm sure he's just looking so much forward to it.
Yeah. Yes, exactly. Bite. Not out of any, can't be this old, just out of, that's not important to me anymore. Right. Like my age, unless it's a milestone year, I just don't care how old I am.
Yeah, I know. I mean, we all, sometimes there are some great stories, fictional stories about age and how it's not really something you need to, and they would just live your life,
Yep,
and
absolutely.
Yes, we do get older, but at least do the things you want to do. Don't, and well, it's like my kids in high school. I wanted to make sure that my kids went to a high school where they be offered anything to do.
Mm-hmm.
Because the high school I went to was an old country school at the time. Now, of course, they're a big school and they got all kinds of stuff. But at the time, they were a country school. So I didn't have the opportunity to do a lot of things I would like to have done.
Mm-hmm.
But at least I let my children have the experience of doing. I told the kids, I said, do not leave that high school with regrets.
Yeah.
Do not regret things that you wished you had done when you were in high school. Do it because you're done after that. And then it's over.
Yeah.
And so, so we made sure that my wife and I made sure that they went to a high school that was, pretty large, that they had lots of activities, lots of things to do that they loved doing.
That's great.
So there wasn't anything that they couldn't do.
Yep. That's awesome. Well, I do have one more question for you because it is time for the magic moment of the stream. And I have this little magic wand. If you could wave this nifty little magic wand and eliminate one common opinion or misconception or theory surrounding mental illness, disabilities, or talking about mental health, what would it be?
Oh, getting rid of?
Yes.
Does that mean if I get rid of Autism Speaks, would that do it?
Yeah. Hey, if that's what you want to get rid of, absolutely.
Because
sounds like that should be appropriate.
About 90% of the misconceptions about the disability, and it is a disability. I don't think people really get that part. It really is a disability, and I'm not proud of it, but at least I've embraced it, and more than just embracing it, but I've also been trying to help others understand it.
Yeah.
So they know how to live with it.
Yeah.
Because it's not going to go away. It's not like a virus or a flu. it's there forever.
Yeah.
And the only thing that I can recommend is just being able to live with what you have and take the next step forward and live your life.
Mm-hmm.
And again, that's part of the reason why I'm writing this book about relationships, couples, and things like that. And really, there are some like us that don't really care about being in a relationship at all. They just want to be celibate, and that's it. And that's fine. There's nothing wrong with that. But for those that would like to have a partner of some sort, whether it be friend or otherwise, or love interest or whatever, be careful. Just be careful, because then that life you had can be completely almost destroyed if it's the wrong person. And that's what hurts me the most, is that I see these wonderful people getting hurt by people that well, my wife will tell you, if she were here, she could tell you that she's had, when she grew up, she had a very horrible childhood with a very, very bad man who's now passed. And I'll be straight up with you. Nobody's missed him. Not his biological daughter. She was thrilled that he was gone. That's kind of a bad way to think about, somebody being, that somebody died and they're happy about it. But they were. My wife was thrilled. Her brother was thrilled. The man was not a very good man.
Yeah.
All.
Well, I was just going to say, I'm really glad that your next book is about relationships, because I really feel like if you can just help spread a little bit of information and help people understand themselves a little bit better, and, kind of set things up for success in a relationship, that's really valuable.
Right. And that's where I start with you first.
Yeah.
It has to start with you first.
Absolutely.
Because if it doesn't start with you first and you find somebody else, you have to be very careful about the warning signs, the red flags, everything else.
Yep.
And sometimes it's okay to listen to other members of your family or friends or whatever, because they really do have your best interest. Because there are things that they might see that you just don't see.
Right.
Because if you get into that relationship and ride the roller coasters, they always say, you don't see those kind of things. And so I just felt very fortunate in that when I was with Jamie, her mother loved me. She felt like, because, like I said, she grew up in a very horrible home, and for the longest time. And so she was so happy that she met me and that I've been now part of that. But sadly, I'll tell you, we lost her back in 2009 from pancreatic cancer. So just a little extra plug out there for anybody. If you feel any kind of weird pains or anything, or if you have a history of it, have it checked out.
Yep.
Including like colon cancer, like Chadwick Boseman. My granddad died from colon cancer, and I have to be careful. My mom's got it right now. So, be careful.
Yeah. Well, I'll say also two things I'll say about that. One, if you're a woman and you have something weird going on, don't let them blame it on your period. Ask for all the tests. Two, if you're a man and you have something weird going on in your chest, this tattoo right here is a tattoo of a handlebar mustache. That is in honor of my grandfather, who died to breast cancer. And he was a man. And because he was a man, he didn't think anything going wrong with his pecs was a problem. But it wound up being breast cancer. And by the time he knew, it was too late, essentially. So, if you anything weird going on with your body, get the screenings, insist on the screenings, no matter what.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, definitely try to know your family history.
Yep.
Because your history can save your life.
Yep.
it really can save your life if you just know your history and know how to deal with it. Because I deal with high blood pressure, high cholesterol. Thank you, Dad. For all this. But again, I know, and I've got to be careful. Melanoma is what killed my granddad, who was from Mineral Wells, Texas.
Hey.
You probably know exactly where that is.
Yep, I do know right there where that is.
Yeah. So I just have to be very. In fact, I even had a basal cell removed from the side of my head about a few years ago. So I really try to make sure I don't get sunburned.
Yeah.
I try to, be very careful in the sun.
Yeah. I want to read a couple of messages from the chat also. So Growling, first of all, I love your comment about understanding starts with you. That's really cute. I think that's great. Iron Chef says, yeah, hell yeah, get rid of them. Talking about autism speaks. I just can't believe there's an organization that really pushes the thought that autism is caused by vaccinations. That blows my mind. Blows my mind.
How successful they're getting.
Yeah, absolutely. That is absolutely crazy. And then also Iron Chef says, I haven't been here in a while, but I'm autistic. I think I found this channel through Adiana. I watched several streams at once at this time of evening. I gotcha. Yeah, absolutely. So I'm glad that you're here, Iron Chef. Thank you for being here. Growling, that was a funny comment. I like it.
Oh yeah, and Iron Chef, if you have other questions that you want to ask me or I don't know, do we all just call you MommaFoxFire?
Yeah. Okay. Pretty much.
I'm just trying to wrap my brain around that one a little bit, but
yep, everybody just calls me Mama or MommaFoxFire. That's it.
Okay, that's fine.
Well, yeah, I mean, I'll open it up. Any remaining community questions, feel free to pop them into the chat as we wrap up here. And then, Christopher, I'll just kind of say that, Growling just said her real name is Bruce, if that helps. Now my name's going to be Bruce everywhere. Someone's going to change my nickname to Bruce.
Bruce.
But I'll just say if there's any recommendations as far as sites or resources or anything like that you want to throw out there, I'll kind of give the floor to you. And I'll also post your Instagram and Twitter one more time if anybody wants to connect with you.
Let me say this right off the bat. The book you can get on Amazon. You can get it as an ebook, a paperback. This is the hardback. And yes, it is an award winner. So you're not just buying anything. I've had several people read and review the book that don't know me from Adam.
Pardon me. Thank you.
And so, but they've all given it high marks. I've not had any negative, nothing. In the book, I do give several sites and several places that you can check out. The book really does, I believe, does a really good job of answering a lot of questions, making you be aware of, not just jobs and how mean people can be, but, just life in general. And so I would definitely recommend that, like I said, you can get through them. There are other sites like Barnes & Noble, Gobo, I think Google Books, so. It's on it's everywhere. But make sure, but let me just warn you, because it's not, I haven't been able to pick up a lot of steam yet on it for some crazy reason. Definitely type in my name and type in Weirdo 2.0, because if you just type in Weirdo, you're going to get a lot of a lot of stuff.
Well, I posted a direct link to it on Amazon for everybody. So if you're interested in the book, click through to that one. It is the right one. It's the same. You'll see the same cover and everything. So.
Oh, that's what I love about the cover. The cover, you can't.
It's wonderful.
Well, okay, I'm going to be honest. My wife doesn't like the cover.
Really? Oh, I love the cover.
She doesn't like the cover. I'm like, why did you like the cover? Is it that bad? I mean.
Oh, I think it's great.
Butterfly. I'm like, what? Why is it that bad? I mean,
it's not bad at all.
I can't get anything right. It's like, But the irony is like, well, can you expand it even more? And actually, the answer is yes, I can.
Uh-oh. Uh-oh. I'm not sure what happened.
What? I know. I was like suddenly looking at me and nobody else.
Yeah.
Did we lose everybody?
No, it looks like it's still going. Oh, nope. They're saying I'm back. It's weird. I don't know. That's probably a sign to wrap it up, but that's okay. So Bite Mark says, I just want to say thanks so much for being here. I learned a lot and have some new books to check out. Yes, absolutely.
Okay, so it's not the Texas grid thing you're having a problem with.
Not that I know of. And it was actually a pretty cool day. I think it only got up to like 102 today. So it shouldn't have been too much of a stretch on the grid, honestly.
Oh, I love the way you just said that, because in Kansas City, I think our high was like 75 today.
Now I'm jealous.
It was only 101. I'm like going.
I think tomorrow our high is like 96. And then on Thursday, we're supposed to be back up around 108. So.
And this is why I do not live in Texas.
Hey, I don't blame anyone for not living here.
Hey, now, like I said, my aunt lives in Texas. Mm-hmm. My dad was born and raised in Texas. My aunt, my cousins, everybody was in Texas. My mom, her family was in Oklahoma. So that's why you hear this drawl from me.
Yep.
I can't get rid of the daggum drawl. I can't.
That's okay.
It doesn't matter.
You don't need to change a damn thing. So it's all good. Well, thank you. Thank you so much for joining us today, Christopher. I really appreciate you taking the time and just chatting with us. It was really lovely.
Oh, I love it. I love this.
Yeah.
And feel free to bother me whenever you want to.
Will do. All right, chat. Well, give me just a minute to disconnect with Christopher offline, and I will be back in just a minute. Thank you so much for being here and participating today. I appreciate y'all. Thanks for listening in on that heartfelt exploration into the world of Asperger syndrome and the invaluable journey of disability advocacy. I hope you found my conversation with Christopher Wheat enlightening and inspiring both. Life is a tapestry of experiences, and it's in understanding and embracing the diverse threads that we weave a more compassionate world. Christopher's perspective is a reminder that every story is worth sharing, and every individual brings their own unique strengths to the table as they build resilience. As I reflect on our talk today, I'm reminded that every challenge we face, every hurdle we overcome, contributes to the vibrant mosaic of our lives. So, to all the parents out there navigating the twists and turns of parenthood, and to those personally navigating the intricate landscape of neurodiversity, I want you to know that you are not alone. Your journey is valid. I acknowledge your struggles, and I celebrate your triumphs. Before we wrap up, a quick reminder to hit that like button, subscribe, and leave a review, just a couple of words if you enjoyed today's episode. Your support means the world to me, and it really helps me continue bringing you conversations that matter. Now, until next time, keep embracing the beautiful messiness of life. And remember, even when tacos fall apart, there's still so much love to savor. Thank you for joining me today. Take care, stay resilient, and keep spreading love.